Let's talk about how to pass the AIG first round video interview. What's up guys, it's Mike from Job Read English here to help you get hired. We research the interview and recruitment processes for world famous companies to help you pass their interviews. All of our research comes from publicly available sources, from people who have already been through the process, and our past the interview videos have now been watched by over 1 million people to date. Today we're going to be breaking down the process for the insurance giant AIG. If you want more help to pass your interview, make sure you check out our AIG Pass the Interview Pack, which contains a 50+ page research note that we have created, which has 5 fast facts about the company, their core values, useful links and sources, most common questions, other questions you could get asked, and sample answers. Also contained in the pack is our 60-minute interview preparation crash course, our 28 most common questions answered ebook, our interview success secrets masterclass, and plenty of other resources to help you be best prepared for your interview. This video is split up into 3 parts. Part number 1, we're going to go through the recruitment process and what you can expect when you apply for AIG. Part number 2, we're going to talk about the most common questions that candidates were asked in 2022 when they went through the interview, and part number 3, we're going to cover some other questions candidates were asked. And for parts 2 and 3, I talk about how you can think about answering these questions and what's the best format, structure and style. Let's get started. Part number 1, the AIG recruitment process. Candidates reported that this process took about 4 weeks. They applied online and then they interviewed at AIG. There was no record that we found of online testing. For the interview details, there were a couple of different responses for this. An initial interview of a manager at AIG, followed by HR and then senior managers. This was then followed up with a coffee with the head of the area of business. All in all, an easy process. Approximately 20 to 30 minutes per interview, and questions were competency and experience based. There was no record of an assessment centre. Now, of course, I would caveat this by saying potentially there could be an online test and there could be an assessment centre, but we did not find this in our research from publicly available sources. Let's talk about their most common questions. Question number 1, why do you want to work for this company? For an in-depth explanation of how to answer this question and a free worksheet that you can fill in yourself with an example, make sure you click the card up above. Now, whenever we're talking about why we want to work for a company, the most important thing that I want you to remember is that you should use facts which are specific to that company. And I'm going to give you an example from one of our 5 fast facts. AIG was named number 1 in the 2023 insurance sector overall by institutional sector. Now, this is an example of a specific fact. Say, for example, you have 2 to 3 minutes to answer this question. You want to be prepared with at least 5 or 6 facts. Now, I guarantee you it would take you no longer than 15 minutes going through some of the common pages on their website to find these facts. I also suggest that you would want to pick out at least one fact that means something personally to you. It could be about their environmental policy, new technology that they're using, or just work that you would be engaged in. This is a really good way for you to inject your own personality into your answer for this question, and most importantly, not becoming or sounding bored because you're just reading off a list of facts about a company. Question 2, why do you think you are a good fit for this role? This is very similar to the question, why this job? If you want an in-depth explanation on how to answer this question, as well as a free worksheet and example, make sure you click the card up above. So whenever you're thinking about why do you want to do this job, why are you a good fit for this role, you really want to split your answer into 2 parts. The first part is you clearly demonstrating your understanding of what you do on a daily basis. The second part is you outlining 2 or 3 skills which you know are important for the company, which you can demonstrate based upon their experience. Both of these things are very easy to find in the job description. I do recommend that you print a copy off or have it to hand. Companies will basically tell you what exactly it is that they're looking for. There are many jokes about job descriptions being unreasonable or giving a long laundry list of things that they expect candidates to have. But the truth is you don't have to have all of those qualities, but a company is going to be looking for you to have some of those qualities. So if you have that job description to hand, then you can explain in a minute or 90 seconds what is it that you'd be expected to do. AIG is asking this because there are plenty of people who apply for jobs and they don't really know what it is that they're going to be doing. And they get weeded out at this stage of the recruitment process, or what we'd also commonly known as a HR screener, when we check in for motivational and basic behavioural questions. So now you understand what the job involves, you can outline the skills that you have that are required for this job. Maybe you need to be highly analytical, have good teamwork skills, leadership, whatever it is. Whenever you're talking about, here's a couple of things that I think make me a really good fit for this job. First of all, I believe that I have great leadership potential because I'm actually a shift manager at the subway where I work every weekend, and I'm also the secretary of our local sports club at my university. So by providing an example and not just a skill, I'm really demonstrating my experience rather than my opinion. And that's why we don't want to read out a long laundry list of skills or strengths, because they're really just your opinion, until you can provide an experience that demonstrates or provides proof that you have those skills. Question number 3, tell me about your experience. Now, I know that many people really struggle with this question because in all likelihood, unless you're a professional watching this video, and it's quite easy for you to say, well, I was an insurance broker at this company and now I'd like to be an insurance broker at AIG, and here's the things that I did and here's the things that I can do here. Now, if you are a professional watching this video and you already have this experience, the most important advice that I can give to you is make sure you give the facts, the quantities, the numbers, the data. So, how many policies did you process? What was the value of contracts that you worked with? How many people did you speak to? It's very important that we talk in numbers and facts, because otherwise we don't really have an idea of what you're saying, because everybody has a different interpretation. If I said to you, wow, today I spoke to a lot of people. Now, if you're an introvert who rarely leaves the house, that could be 3 people. If you're an extrovert who spends a lot of time out and about meeting with people, that could be 300 people. So make sure you give a number so that that person in their mind, because we are visual spatial, that person can go, wow, 300 people, yeah, that is a lot of people. 3 people, that doesn't sound like a lot. It doesn't really matter. That's really important for a professional. Now, if you don't have direct experience for the job, or you're basically saying, well, look, I've never been an actuary before, so I don't know how would I demonstrate my experience. Well, this is actually quite simple. And again, we want to refer back to the job description. So look at the job description and look at the things that you would have to do and the skills that you would need. Now, some of those things altogether you may not have done, but I'm pretty sure that you will have done some of those things. You will have worked with Excel before, you might have done a company analysis report before. You certainly can demonstrate teamwork in some capacity, or having done some form of interpersonal skills. Now, we can really break this down to transferable skills and experience. You can say, well, in my weekend job working at Subway, I actually have had some great experience working with a wide variety of customers, dealing with pressure, working with money, managing other people, and so on and so forth. Because actually, we all have some form of experience. We all have something that we have done. And of course, if we can, we want to provide experiences from work because we're applying for a job. But it may be the case where you say, well, I don't have work experience. That's cool. Were you part of a society, part of a club, something that you do with other people as part of a hobby? If not, then use your academics. What I would strongly suggest to you, if you are a university student and you're watching this and you can only right now demonstrate academic experience, I encourage you, go to meetups, do volunteering at a local charity shop. Not only is it going to be good for you and your sense of confidence and self, but it'll be something that you could speak on in interviews when you have questions like this. Question number 4, tell me about a time you failed to hit a deadline. Now, this is an example of a competency question. A competence is just a skill. If somebody is competent at doing something, they are able to or have the skill to do something. But this doesn't sound like much of a competence at all. Anytime that you're asked a competency or behavioural question, the first thing that you want to think about is, what am I being tested on? What is it that you want to understand about me to demonstrate I'm good for this job? So if I said to you, tell me about a time you worked in a team, what I'm really looking for is saying, do you understand what good teamwork is? And can you give me an experience of working in a team? So what about this question? Tell me about a time you failed to hit a deadline. Well, why is this important? This is what I like to call a negative competency question. So really, I'm looking to see how you have demonstrated resilience, how you have overcome a failure. And when picking examples for competency questions, just like we spoke about in the question before, ideally we'd like to pick out something from work. If not, extracurricular activities, clubs and societies, and then finally academics. There's only one thing that I would really avoid, which is personal experience. The reason being is it's not really going to differentiate you from your peers. And this is an important thing to think about. Yes, it may be an okay answer to a question, but if 100 people are giving the same answer, is that going to be enough to differentiate you from the others? Is that going to be enough to differentiate you from other people? So how do we think about answering this question? Well, first of all, we've all failed to hit deadlines, whether they be real or imagined. Sometimes a deadline could just be an unrealistic expectations of ourselves, like a deadline to lose weight or to finish a particular type of work or to make a certain amount of money. That could be an internal deadline if you're saying, well, actually, I've always met deadlines. So the first thing that we really want to do is think, how do we answer these questions? Well, this is situation, task, action, result, which can easily be summarized as what was the situation that you were in, what was the task that you had to do, what were the actions that you carried out, and what were the results that you achieved. Now, as you work through this question, what I really want you to think about is that the emphasis of your answer should be in the actions that you took. So let's walk ourselves through this question and how we'd think about it with a sample answer from our research. In the year 2020, I worked at Papa John's as an in-store delivery driver. That's the situation. Once during the lockdown, we failed to deliver a pizza on time. In general, we are given 20 to 30 minutes for an order, from making the pizza to delivering the order, depending on the customer and their postcode. That's the task. Because of the lockdown, the store was extremely busy that day. As usual, we completed our deliveries one by one. So I walked inside the store after delivering an order when a colleague asked, "Could you please do this delivery for me as I need to use the loo?" I took the package after checking the address on the ticket. When I returned from the delivery, my manager began to scold me. He asked me why I'd given the customer not just the wrong order, but an order that was meant for someone else. I apologised as I realised that in my haste I hadn't checked to see if the pizzas in the delivery bag matched the ones on the ticket. I made sure to get the new order ready and delivered as soon as possible. That's the action. I accepted and apologised for my part of the mistake from the whole situation and apologised to the customer for being late. However, the customer thanked me and tipped me £5. That's the result. So what we're thinking about in here, when we're really trying to break down the structure or the framework of a good answer, is what was the deadline? How did you fail to meet it? What did you learn? And then how was this useful in the future? So failing to meet a deadline, making a mistake, some kind of negative question is really just you demonstrating the lesson that you learned and how you improved in the future. Question number 5, how would you describe yourself? And this is a similar question to a personal introduction or tell me about yourself. If you want an in-depth explanation on how to answer this question, make sure you click the card up above, and of course, for a free worksheet and example. So describing yourself, again, we can take this back to the job description. There's a certain element in interviews of playing the game, i.e. we are presenting ourselves in the frame of what the employer wants from us. There are certain things that they're not going to be that interested in. For example, maybe you're exceptionally good at volleyball, but they may not be that interested in it unless you can relate it to the skills and experience that the job requires. So my advice to you is when you're describing yourself, you're going to want to put in as many skills and experiences which relate to the job description as possible, to literally have them turn around and go, wow, you sound like a great fit for us. Yeah, that's exactly who we're looking for. That's the kind of response that we want from our interviewer. Question 6, tell me about how you deal with stressful situations. Now, on the face of it, this question really just feels like a natural response type of strength question. So actually, I'm really good with handling stress. I tend to deal with it quite well. I make sure that I'm planned and highly organized so I know about what I can accept and what I have to decline. But actually, it's a competency-based question. So talking about how you handle stressful situations, give the situation and the task that outlines the stressful situation, the actions that you took to deal with it, which I would suggest would be something along the lines of Number one, will I accept, avoid, or decline this situation? How will I plan it into what I currently have to do? How will I manage my time and organize that time? And then finally, how will I move forward to a result? So let's talk about 3 other questions that we came across that we found interesting. Tell us a time when you worked within a team. Again, another competency-based question. So this is a question that you're going to want to answer using the STAR-based format. And importantly, in the actions, you're going to be looking to demonstrate at least 4 or 5 things that you have done that show that you really understand teamwork. Let's take a look at another sample answer from our research note and see if we can demonstrate that to you. Situation. During my time working at a multinational company, I oversaw 22 franchise partners and their team while working in India. Task. We had asked the partner teams to arrange presentations with academic institutions where we could market our products prior to my visit. Before one visit, a partner informed me that the academic institution suggested that students would be more interested if the presentation was given in their native language. Action. India is a very diverse country with 112 languages spoken across the country. I was not comfortable with giving the presentation in that language, so I had to team up with my partner and share the presentation with him to make it work. We both met early in the morning and practiced the presentation before to discuss our parts and make sure we create the most impact. So we decided that I would do the introduction of the company and products, though my opening line would be in the student's native language to break the ice and add some humour to it. After that, I will introduce my partner, who would speak in our native language and discuss the benefits and training structure to try to build a relationship with students and give us a good brand image, as well as taking questions from the audience. Result: the presentation went really well and we had a large number of students enroll and make a profit of £2,500. So how does that action demonstrate good teamwork? Well, actually, I can pick this one out for you. So first of all, this person's saying, this isn't something that I'm good at, so I asked for help. The second thing, I allocated our resources effectively. So I said, well, actually, I can't speak that language very well. Would you mind helping me in this part of the presentation? I made sure that I did the work. They both met early in the morning and practiced the presentation before. I contributed to the project. So even though the candidate didn't speak the language, he still gave the introduction, gave the students a bit of a laugh, and then handed over to his colleague. And they did the presentation well and managed to get the result, which was more sales. So this is a good example of how we can just inject 4 or 5 things or sentences or words that just clearly show that we understand what the skill involves, and we've demonstrated through our example how we are good at that skill. Question 2. Explain a conflict of a team member and how you resolved it. Now, a conflict is really just a disagreement. That's a simplified way of looking at things. So when you disagree with someone, what do? Well, first of all, it's important to let go of the need to be right, because when you're working on a project or a task or just something at work, what's important is that you're getting the job done in the best way possible. It's not about being right. The next thing that we want to do is listen to what they have to say. Maybe there are multiple parties involved, and see if we can understand where it is that they're coming from. Next, if we still disagree, we may offer a compromise, or we might say to them, well, I understand why you want to do this, but would you mind if I just took a moment to explain why I feel that this might be a better way for us to achieve our result. And then hopefully the situation gets resolved or the compromise goes through, even if in the end you say, well, actually, I do think that you're right, or maybe we can merge these 2 ideas together. And the most important thing, bearing in mind that you get the result which you set out to achieve. And finally, question 3, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? Now, the response to this will always be at AIG, and probably trained, qualified, and working in some type of management position. It shouldn't be, I don't know, working on my own business, working in a different country, or working at another company. Guys, I hope that you've really enjoyed this video. I wish you the best of luck with your AIG interview. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel, like and comment on the video to let us know, was it helpful and how could we make this better? How did your interview go? And wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I wish you the best of luck in finding a job.